Hello guys, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about the 2019 NHL playoffs, and this being the year of the upset. Now, so far in the 2019 NHL playoffs, we've seen a lot of underdog teams so far going in round one and advance somehow to round two. So is it the year of the upset, and how far could these underdog teams go? Watch till the end to find out. Now, the NHL playoffs so far this season have been super entertaining. We've seen a lot of first round series being very close, very chaotic, and of course having a lot of fun to do with them. We've seen in the first round a ton of interesting results, and so far in the first round, it might be one of the best ones of all time, just for how chaotic and crazy it has been so far. And just the sheer amount of craziness that has happened so far in the first round has been entertaining in and of itself. A lot of series having some great rivalries, and a lot of series going the distance, going 6 or 7 games, unless you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's a pretty big exception. But when it comes to the playoffs overall, you really can't get much better than this first round, just in a pure entertainment factor. Now, looking back at last year's NHL playoffs, they were a very entertaining one. Having Washington Vegas as the Stanley Cup final was super entertaining and was definitely a classic. When we look towards the first round, especially comparing it to this year's NHL playoffs, it wasn't all too fantastic. There were a lot of higher seed teams that just ended up advancing, and a lot of predictions in that first round ended up looking pretty correct. When it came to wildcard teams especially, there wasn't much parity there, and we'll see teams like Colorado versus Nashville, there was some competitiveness. There just wasn't that pure factor that Colorado might actually win this series. And when it comes to this NHL playoffs, the wildcard teams just dominating, it's practically a completely different story. Now, compare the 2018 playoffs to the 2019 playoffs, it's like the NHL just flipped the script right there, and now all the lesser seeded teams are now dominating over these higher division winning teams, which that in and of itself is absolutely amazing to watch. When it came to the wildcard teams this season, all 4 advanced to round 2 in both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. And if that sounds like history was made, it was. That was the first time in NHL history that has ever happened, and man, I love that. Now, I'm going to be a little bit honest with you. I do like that a lot because I am a Dallas Stars fan, and them advancing to round 2 was really unpredictable. But even then, seeing all these underdogs just come in and play well right out of the gate was just so fun to watch. Obviously, the first big one, was the Columbus-Tampa series, where almost everybody had Tampa moving on. Some people had them more competitive than others. I had Tampa Bay winning in 6, but Columbus comes out and sweeps the Tampa Bay Lightning, and something that pretty much nobody expected. But if you wanted that first round in a nutshell, I would give you that Columbus-Tampa series, because it just shows how good these underdogs have been, how good the wildcard teams have been, especially in the Western Conference, and it really shows how competitive these teams really can be, and how the parity is so even in the league, which makes so much fun for it. With the other 3 wildcard teams, Colorado, Dallas, Carolina, all of those series were pretty entertaining to watch, especially I would say the Carolina-Washington series, that one going into 7, going into second overtime in Game 7, and of course Brock McGinn ending up getting it done and advancing to round 2 in what seems like the first time in forever for the Carolina Hurricanes. And those are the best stories. Seeing teams like the Carolina freaking Hurricanes go over these Stanley Cup winning teams, that is what the NHL playoffs are all about. And when it comes to the division leaders, all 4 of them ended up losing in the first round. Nashville, Washington, Tampa Bay, and Calgary, all 4 went down in the first round, which, if that sounds like history also, it also is. That is the first time in the 4 major North American sports, and all 4 division leaders have gone out in first round of the playoffs, which is just absolutely crazy, and just shows how ludicrous these playoffs have been so far. And because of the division winners all going out in the first round, it just completely opens up the NHL playoffs. While there are still some good teams left in the playoffs that do have a very good shot at winning the cup, it is basically even at this point. Having all 4 wildcard teams still out there out of the 8 remaining teams makes it so competitive, so even, and that is what is so exciting about these NHL playoffs, is not just the overall play in the first round, but what is next in the second round, in the conference finals, and in the Stanley Cup finals. There's going to be a ton of teams fighting for that, but a ton of teams and a ton of underdogs fighting for that as well, which we really didn't see it last year. We really haven't seen the last couple of years, but this year has just been completely wide open, and a wildcard team could very well win the cup again, which is just absolutely insane. Now, I would say the best teams left on paper would likely be San Jose, St. Louis, and Boston. Those are still some fantastic teams that, yes, have a solid shot at winning the cup. But when it comes to just the wildcard teams in general, Dallas, Colorado, Carolina, Columbus, they're all left. some other underdog teams, I would say, like the New York Islanders. There is so much competition right now, and for these teams fighting for it all the time, in this second round, it's going to be really interesting to see the results that actually come out of it, because with so many of these underdogs playing, yes, while there is better teams, again, I just think it's so wide open right now, and honestly, I could see any of these teams eventually winning a cup. Now, if I had to redo my bracket for the second round, I would say the St. Louis Blues and the Columbus Blue Jackets will meet up. Before the playoffs started, I had the St. Louis Blues winning the Stanley Cup, so I'll still pick them right now. But again, it is so even right now of how many teams can eventually win the Stanley Cup. There's so many teams right now that I think can have that chance. And while there are obviously some better chances than others, teams like St. Louis, teams like Boston, there's still amazing teams left, and even with these wildcard teams, they're making some damage. And of course, the true underdog story will be one of them going to the Stanley Cup final and eventually winning it, and that will be the best story of them all. And just how many sheer upsets we've seen so far these playoffs, it is the year of the upset. It is the year of the underdog. While we might not see a wildcard team win the Stanley Cup this year, the sheer amount of wildcard teams we're seeing just in the second round alone makes it the year of the upset. In the first round, all 4 division leaders are gone, and that has never happened. So just the sheer history that has been made so far in the playoffs, just the craziness that we've seen so far, it might not take a wildcard team to win the Stanley Cup, but I think it is the year of the upset, and I think we have waken up to that. So out of the 4 remaining wildcard teams, I am still hoping that one of them ends up getting it done. My money right now will be on Columbus to go far in the playoffs, maybe make the Stanley Cup final, but I still think for these 4 overall wildcard teams, the playoffs are open right now for a potential run, and for, again, Dallas, Colorado, Carolina, and Columbus, it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing, and of course, how the underdogs keep on performing. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about this year's NHL playoffs so far? What do you think about the first round and so many upsetting teams, upsetting the higher ranked teams? Let me know what you think about Columbus. Let me know what you think about Dallas, Colorado, and last but not least, the Carolina Hurricanes. But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video about the Toronto Maple Leafs and what's next for them. But that'll be it for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on these NHL playoffs and how many upsets we've seen so far. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.